Joe called me in for me. I was taking Joe serious, but it's when the white man, Ian, started saying, "You don't love him. You sit there on your phone." I started dying laughing. I said, if this was Corey, I would listen to Corey. You know how much chances we took?
Joe Budden confronts Flip for his terrible on-air behavior and his decrease in his presence on the show. So the last episode was a very marked departure from how they usually start the show with senseless rambling about their weekend. Instead, they got right to it, and Flip revealed that Joe Budden told him to come in. But here's the thing, Ian Schwartzman, Joe Budden's manager, would say, "I want to be there." And there he was. Now, let's go to what this whole thing was and how it happened, and then break down the ramifications of this whole issue that played out on camera and started from behind the scenes. So, like I said before, it is said that Joe Budden called Flip in for a meeting, and Ian insisted on being present. Joe would start the conversation by saying he's leading with love towards Flip. But the moment Flip arrives and the conversation starts, Ian jumps in, giving his critique, and Flip just says, "Hey man, get to the point. I want to hear what you talking about." Ian would then snap, literally saying, "Okay, you don't love him," mentioning how Joe is helping him out and how Flip is taking advantage, even saying things like, "Yo, you be on the phone all the time. I be watching the playback. You just don't take this serious. We took chances on you." So that just goes to show you that Ian Schwartzman is watching the playback and he has his eye on Flip. Now, one thing that's interesting as this conversation plays out in front of the audience is that Parks is backing Ian the whole time.
I feel bad that I'm laughing.
That sounds respectful.
With his interjections, he's letting it be known that, yo, Flip, you bugging out. And that was very fascinating. And it's kind of the stance Parks always takes when there's a conversation and it's having some implications towards how serious people are taking the business. He would do the same with Melissa Ford. He would do the same with Imani. Remember when Imani took a picture with Rod Wave? Parks would step in and say, that's unprofessional, dog. That's whack.
I was raised in an era where that was like frowned upon. As a studio guy, like you can't be like, just part of the code that I was brought up in. No, you don't take pictures of that come in the studio or any studio or anywhere where they're not posing or expecting to be taking pictures of.
So always watch Parks. Whenever Parks, Joe, and Ian are on the same page, trust that this is a serious issue that they're talking about and they're confiding in each other what's going on. Then Flip says something really crazy. He says he laughed at Ian because he couldn't take him seriously, but that he would have respected the critique if it came from Corey. Now, this would reveal a lot to me. One of the things it would reveal is this has kind of been always what Flip does. He circumvents Ian because he doesn't respect him. You know, the whole TMZ thing. Joe told him, don't go on TMZ. Well, Ian told Flip, don't go on TMZ. And instead, he would call Joe. And there was the time that Ian told Flip, yo, we're suspending you because you almost got into a fight with Joe. And what did Flip do? Well, he would call Joe, not happy with what Ian said. So he doesn't respect Ian. I mean, it's kind of obvious. Ian knows it. And that's probably why he snapped, because he knows he can't really get through to Flip unless he gets angry. But that just resulted in Flip laughing at him. Then as they're talking about this whole thing on the podcast, Mark Lamont Hill steps in to start asking some probing questions. He asked Flip whether Joe accurately assessed his performance and if he agrees with what he said.
When he was, first of all, when he was breaking down your performance, whatever it was, yes. Did you feel like he was accurate?
Flip says yes. Then Mark also gets Flip to admit that Ian was actually upset when Flip started laughing at him.
One Ian question, just because you said you laughed. Did that anger him more?
It did rile him up.
Is it smart for Flip to laugh at somebody who helps run the network? Now, my understanding is that Joe Budden is the one that has final say in things, but Ian has a big say. And by final say, I mean like final say in terms of getting people fired. Like, I don't think it can happen unless Joe agrees with the departure of somebody from the podcast. So maybe that's why Flip takes Joe a little bit more serious. I don't know. Then Mark starts connecting the dots, asking if this conversation has anything to do with Flip's new schedule.
Is there any relationship between the conversation and your new schedule?
Yeah.
What's the relationship?
Like you just said last question.
Well, he didn't answer. What?
He did answer you.
Okay.
He said yes.
We all know Flip is being kind of phased out. He's going from appearing on the podcast both Wednesdays and Saturdays to now only appearing on the Wednesday episode. But Joe realizes that, Mark is about to get the answer that he wants. And Joe Budden steps in and tries to make Mark back off. And Mark backs off because I think Mark likes to probe things. But when Joe Budden tells him to chill, he pretty much chills. Still, Flip would go on to answer the question and say that, hey, this new schedule is by choice. I'm the one who wants to do this. And the whole pod starts laughing out loud. But that wasn't the end of this conversation, as later on, Mark Lamont Hill would poke fun at Flip, saying something like, you should get 50% of something because you're only at the show 50% of the time, and also making a nod to how Flip is trying to paint this or reframe this as some type of good thing.
Look, son, you're working hard. You're working smarter.
Hey, yo,
Don't listen to what they're telling you.
Hey, yo, Mark, listen
You're
to
getting
me.
twice.
Mark.
Yo.
So, as we can all observe, big changes are happening, but is this content over everything, or is this actual narratives rooted in the reality of a podcaster who's losing his footing on the show? And before anybody in the comments types it, I know what you guys are saying. Flip was supposed to take a month off from the show. I'm not buying it. I don't think any member of the show is going to take a month off. Usually they'll take a couple weeks off at the most, but a month off just doesn't seem likely. I think that's just something they're throwing around. And we also have to look at the past. Remember when Flip was bugging out and it was completely okay? They would allow him to come to the show. Well, that behavior kind of never stopped. It continued. And he would bug out on Melissa Ford, but then he would bug out on somebody that he probably went too far with. Mona.
First episode, we're going to see how red that face gets.
I'm making. No. Cry.
I'm so nice to
Nah, I'm going to quit. Because Mark ain't going to always be there. Let's move on.
Mark held it down. Mark was trying to walk away.
A lot of rat that be going on.
This may have been the situation that implored Joe Budden to sit Flip down and protect the new asset that he acquired. And it's not only that she is great or Joe Budden thinks she's great, it's also that Flip just had a great impact on Melissa Ford's time on the show. He may be the reason why he had to say goodbye to her, so he can't be the reason that Mona doesn't work on the show. And there's also been several incidents of Flip sandbagging interviews and being quiet, shutting down. Remember, there was the Bryson Tiller interview where he appeared to be acting all types of crazy. I think that was the day that Joe Budden and Flip would almost fight. Then there was the Don't Play With It girl, Lola Brooke. He was acting out, bugging out because he couldn't speak and felt like he was being stifled. So Flip has engaged in conduct detrimental to the show, and I believe he no longer has the leverage, and instead he's being sat down and told to chill, but he's positioning it as a way to kind of grow his brand. Now, could this be content over everything? I don't think so. I think what they're doing is they're letting things kind of seem a certain way after the toothpaste is out of the tube. They're trying to narrate and see what happens. I think this will have large reaching ramifications, but the wild card in all of this is that there's a new show coming, a potential new idea, and it's only a matter of time before we find out what is the parameters of that. Is this a new podcast? Is this a new IP? Is it going to be the same exact thing as what they do the other 2 days of the week? Or would it be something completely different to the point where Flip can now go back to working 2 days a week? I don't know. But one thing I do know is, what if Mona starts working Wednesdays as well? Will Joe Budden take the tack that he needs to have Flip come in less, and instead of coming on Wednesdays, he comes every other Wednesday? That's when we'll know the final stages of Flip on the show are among us. Plus, what if Flip bugs out again? I think the margin for error is really slim. So even if this is a planned idea, there's only but so much real estate Flip can play with now, and it's likely that his next bad move will be his last. But let me know what you think. I actually like that the Joe Budden podcast got right to it in the beginning, because I feel that's my biggest critique of the pod, is that it starts off with a lot of random conversation about their weekend, and you can tell Joe Budden is trying to just get everybody excited. But when they started with this contract stuff, at least it led into the first topic, and for me, it made things run smoothly. Another side effect of all of this is if Flip appears on the show less, it might make the audience miss him. So maybe that's a strategy Joe is employing here as well. All right, y'all, that's my video for now. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, The Stop TV. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, The Stop TV. Also, tap in with my Patreon, The Stop. This is Danny from The Stop. Peace.